ACPA, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the 2020-2021 President of ACPA College Student Educators International, Vernon Wall. As your first official act of ACPA presidents, you will sign the presidential scroll, and we will add your organization's lapel pin to the archives of the institutions.
Thank you. We're going to let Brian have a chance to sit for a minute while we say thank you to Craig. But before we say thank you to Craig, we also want to say thank you to Jamie. I said all my words last year for Jamie. I was going to say the presidential address, if you want to see that, just watch the video. Listen to the video. But I would like for us to all give just a rousing round of applause, not just for past President Jamie Washington, but for all that is Jamie Washington to higher education and student affairs. Please join me. So before we get to hear from Vernon, I do want us to say thank you also to Craig as our 2019-2020 president. When history is written about Craig's year as president, I think they'll say two things. First, that he has a life calling for blowing stuff up. They won't say stuff, but this is being recorded, so I'm saying stuff. They will say that Craig's life calling is to blow stuff up. Second, they'll say that this leadership moment chose him. One of the first things I recall Craig saying when starting the vice presidency sequence to become president was he was not afraid to blow stuff up. And he was energized by the leadership's recent work, but ACPA claiming our history of boldness in the modern form of leading on racial justice and decolonization in higher education. Craig also understood that creating systemic levels of change in the association required a collective effort, and he quickly helped us organize to increase representation on the governing board, construct a new mission statement naming equity and inclusion as it had not previously done, develop a new tagline as the association who boldly transformed higher education, and create a new strategic plan for the association that will take us to and beyond our 100th anniversary. All of this in a single year. Craig's joy for blowing stuff up was not used for destruction, but rather for creating powerful new sparks that will propel us into our future. The second thing that history will reflect on Craig's year as president is that the challenges and opportunities that face the association in the past year chose him instead of vice versa. Craig sometimes joked that the things he was actually undertaking this year as president were not the tasks and objectives that he anticipated when thinking about what his year as president would include. In retrospect, the things the governing board and other leaders in the association were able to achieve in the past year required his steadfast attention to our core values, his openness to consider a different way of doing things, and his willingness to try something new and to grow from it. It has been one of the distinct honors of my career and the highlight of my life to work with you. I'm glad that as past president, we will get to continue to benefit from your boldness, your enthusiasm, and your heart as you transition into the past presidency. The association would like to offer you a few items of appreciation in a bag as colorful as you are, that you can open later, as you now have a bit more time and a little bit less stress after this year's service and leadership. Although they're not here today, they were here this week. I want to say thank you to Jackson, Tom, and Nicole for sharing this rad dad and partner with us this year. On behalf of those in attendance and those who could not be here today, we thank you for being our leader as the 2019-2020 ACPA President. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. The coronation begins. I now invite Daniel Ostrick and Kristen Young to the podium to introduce our 2020-21 ACPA President.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel Ostick. I use he, him, his pronouns. I work in residence life at the University of Maryland, and I am proud to be here today to read Vernon and Antonio Wall. The library is open. I can't do the play. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my first draft. I am here to introduce Vernon Wall to all of you. So, when Vernon asked me to introduce him, I excitedly said yes, of course. But then about a minute later, I realized that all my good material wasn't really fit for a public audience, so I went to my house. I met Vernon in the fall of 19, none of your business, when I was a little gay boy freshman at the University of Georgia. Me, the son of an Army colonel, and it being the opportunities for me to connect in community with other LGBT folks was limited to, well, nothing in Georgia. This is pre-AOL chat in Athens, Georgia, so there's nothing happening for those gay folks. Then there was Vernon, my student affairs mentor. He lived proud and unapologetic. I was a typical future student affairs type, involved and eager. On the campus programming board, campus tour guide. UGA was founded in 1785. It was the first public state chartered university. Don't come for me, UNC. And I was also a housing guide, working at their main office where I met Vernon. If you've ever been in a Vernon Wall office, you know the Willy Wonka vibe that it provides. Tchotchkes from all of his travels, his schools, his conferences, like the luggage tag from his first ACPA in 1957. He has a bulletin board with lots of inspirational sayings. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Touchy-feely, kicky-crotchy was one of his buttons. That was a great one. It may have seemed eclectic, but it all had a purpose. It said, come in. You are welcome here. Let's connect. This is Vernon's signature. Finding connection with everyone he encounters and bringing those people together in community. As an undergrad, I loved hanging out at Late Night Disco at the 40 Rock Club, or going to the only gay night in town. It was the Color Box on Wednesday nights. We saw RuPaul before she was RuPaul. She was Star Moody. We saw her perform. And meeting friends of Vernon's at his annual Dynasty reunion party. For those of you who are too young to remember, Dynasty was a television show back in the day. And after the show was off TV, they had a few TV movies, and Vernon loves an exclusive party. And if it involves Alexis Morel, Carrington Colby, Dexter Rowan, all the better. So as I got the student affairs itch later in college, Vernon encouraged me to explore. Shockingly, I ended up at Indiana University, Vernon's alma mater. It was there that I learned my friend and mentor was not Vernon Wall. He was the Vernon Wall. People would say, you know the Vernon Wall. And I thought it was hysterical at first. And then I understood that what I saw in Georgia, Vernon did everything. I saw him as element in places like ACPA, an involved advocate who elevated the conversation and created safe spaces. Come in. You are welcome here. Let's connect. Vernon has been my friend and mentor ever since. And I will note, I'm the only person who ever visited him when he was spent 6 years at Iowa State in Ames. I owe so many of my professional opportunities to him. Convention team in Long Beach the last time, Vernon. ACPA's roadshow to promote Beyond Tolerance, his groundbreaking book on LGBT issues in higher ed, Vernon. Leadership, Vernon. My list goes on and on. His handprint is all over my career, but not just mine. I've seen him mentor others, encourage people to think outside of their own confines. He's been a leader in our field for a long, long time, and I'm proud to call him President Vernon Wall. Before I pass the time here to Kristen, let me give you a little peek behind the curtain that is the Vernon Antonio Wall. These are sweet things. For the past few days, I've been digging into my memories to find some fun facts to share that many of you know, but many of you may not. In the car, Vernon only listens to gospel music on the radio. Only. Loves him some Yolanda Adams. At a restaurant, if they have deviled eggs on the menu, Vernon will always order the deviled eggs. It's fried green tomatoes for me. Vernon loves a sweater combo. He had one on earlier. Vernon comes from a family of leadership. His parents, Ernestine and Ward, his sister Tanita, his brother Ward Jr., and his nephews. They are a family that is committed to creating change in the world. And while Vernon now sports a clean palette up top, tan in my other picture, me too, asking to show you his former kid and play haircut from the 90s. Some of you know what that is. So I joke, Vernon can take a joke, and you can dish it out too. I've been lucky enough to call Vernon a role model and mentor and colleague and friend for many years. He's taught me things I didn't know, things I didn't know I needed to know, and things I didn't want to know but needed to know. He's taught me lessons on professionalism, social justice, counseling, and ethics. He's been my constant, my anchor, my compass, my safe harbor. I'm excited Vernon will be our next ACPA president because I know he'll send a message to all of us. It's the same one he sent to little 18-year-old Dan in Athens, Georgia. Come in. You are welcome here. Let us connect. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Kristen Young, and I serve as the interim president of Leadership, and that's how I got to know Vernon. And it is really an honor to be here with you today and introduce my friend and dear colleague as he takes on this presidency. When he first asked me to introduce him, I looked in and said, of course, sure. And I looked around the room and I thought, maybe he's talking to someone else. But there was no one else in the room. It was just me. And so he asked that as I introduced him, talk about the Vernon he is now, because he thought I knew him that well. And that is such an honor. As Daniel mentioned, many of you know Vernon Wall by name. I know this because when I travel to Leadership Campus Partners, often people tell me about how Vernon was recently there and how he engaged in these really meaningful conversations with your students, and it's creating change on your campus. And no matter where I am or how recent it has been since Vernon has been there, the conversation always ends with, it must be amazing to work with him on a daily basis. And they're 100% correct. What people see and experience when Vernon comes to campus is a depth of knowledge and an ability to relate to people where they are. Everyone has mentioned that this morning about him. He shares his knowledge and expertise so generously with the field. Recently, I was reading the latest revision of the CAS Standards of Leadership. I got it in an email, I downloaded it, I'm reading it, I'm very intrigued by its content, and I get to the end where I look at who has worked on these CAS standards, and I see names of great colleagues that I recognize, and I get to the end of the list at the bottom, and I see the name Vernon Wall. I didn't know, had no idea. I pick up my phone and text Vernon a picture of the CAS standards, and my text goes something a little bit like this. Hey, this is awesome. Did you forget to tell me you were working on the CAS standards for leadership development? Like, this is what we do with leadership. And it included a smiley emoji and a heart, because that's something fun. And Vernon responds back to me. He also gave me a smiley emoji, and then he talked about what an awesome team he had been a part of working on those developments of the CAS standards. Never once did he talk about his contribution to that or the work that he did. It was always about the team. I share this with you because this is how amazing Vernon is. It's not just because of his countless contributions to the scholarly work of higher education, or because of the very impactful work he's done in the areas of social justice. All of those are great, and all of those are many. The reason I think it's amazing to work with Vernon on a daily basis is because he has a heart that is 3 sizes too big. He cares deeply about the people that he works with in making improvements in higher education. Many of us are in this room because of that care. And that's what I want to tell you about as I think about Vernon and my friend. I want to tell you about his heart. When I think of Vernon Wall, I don't first think of those scholarly contributions. I think of the devoted son and brother who travels home to savor time with his family as they continue to age. I think about the loving uncle who takes interest in his nephews in order to build strong relationships with them and appreciates each of them for who they are. I think about the friend who helps to plan grand parties to celebrate wonderful events in life, and the person who hops on a plane at a moment's notice to be with someone they love when they are in moments of deep sorrow. When I think of Vernon Wall, I see a colleague who sits with the hurts of others and helps them work through it to be the best version of themselves. I think of a colleague who believes in my abilities more than I often believe in myself, and is always there to remind me of that. I also see someone who can make me laugh and figure out what the best next show is to watch on Netflix to release the pressures of a stressful day. I see a person who gives his whole heart to the people and the organizations that he cares about. And that ACPA is the person I want to introduce you to today. Vernon's leadership starts in his heart. It guides his actions, and it produces amazing results. I've seen it in the creation of an organization he cares about with SGTI, to the countless articles and presentations he's done to contribute to our learning. I've seen it in his dedication to leadership. In good times and bad, he is there to help us develop more people who lead with integrity. He's done all of this work with his values grounding him, guiding him, and pushing the organizations he's involved in to be better, to serve more people, and to have a greater impact in higher education. This is the same care that he will bring to ACPA. I know he cares deeply about ACPA. He's grown up in this association. He's helped shape and guide many of us as we've grown up in this organization, and he will continue to do that as president. He will do this with his heart, and it will lead to great action. I've seen it happen before, and I know it will happen again. As he guides this organization to make an impact, he will work humbly behind the scenes and not care about who gets the credit or the recognition. He cares deeply about the people he works alongside with and the membership of ACPA. I hear him talk about it on a daily basis as he prepared for this role. He wants to make sure that everyone is seen, everyone is recognized, and everyone is valued for who they are and what they bring into this field. He will honor those who have come before him that have led ACPA to this very critical point, and he will continue to help ACPA transform higher education in the areas of social justice and leadership and decolonization. Because this is just who Vernon is. He's a person of deep conviction, humble service, and great passion. And it's my pleasure to introduce my dear friend and colleague to you all today. Vernon Wall.
So we should just stop right now. Daniel, did you take my... No. No. Look at the new papers.
No? Did you take it? I didn't take anything. No?
Were there slides?
No.
Oh my goodness. I think I want to begin by thanking someone who is my life partner, who has been with me since so long, someone who continues to ground me, the relationship that I love, the person who loves me. I would love to do that, but so awkward. Hello. President single. The funniest thing about that is some of y'all are like, where is he going with that? Did something happen here at the convention? No. Seriously, I just want to first of all thank Daniel and Kristen. People who know me know that that's the hardest thing for me to do, is to sit and listen to people talk about me. And I love you and thank you for that. I picked Daniel because, of course, I wanted someone to know me, as an undergraduate student, and has been with me since. And then Kristen, leadership is something that is so important to me, and my now is important too. So I just wanted to say that. And to Craig Elliott, I know that Chris gave you some love, but I just want to make sure that you know that this association is better because of you. And I am committed to following your legacy and continuing the things that we've done thus far. So I just want to one time thank Craig. Now, let me turn it on. Okay, now it decides it doesn't work. Oh, there it goes. This is fun. This is fun to do.
Something happened.
Oh, we disappeared. Okay, we're just going. Holy, there we go. Bam. My very first ACPA was in 1983. Susan Komovitz was president, and I was a graduate student in Indiana University. I believe you were pregnant. Is that correct, Susan? Just had a baby. Because I knew that I remember being in this huge auditorium with thousands of people, and this woman talked about her family
and being ACBA president, I was overwhelmed with the number of people that were there because this was the first time that I'd ever experienced people in the room who were doing what I did. I didn't know what was happening. It was surreal. And then I remember being at a reception, and later on in the conference, I turned around, and right behind me was Susan Collins. And Susan goes, "Hi, what's your name?" And I'm like, "Whoa, okay. My name is Vernon." And she asked me questions about being at Indiana University and what that meant. And all she said to me was, "I want you to contribute to this profession." And she walked away. I mean, drop the mic. I mean, come on. And I remember so clearly that if this woman, who is president of this association, would take a moment to say a few words to me, a graduate student in a line at a reception, and keep in mind, those plates are small, but I was filling those plates up, that there was something about this association that was important for me to know. And so that began my journey. Nancy Evans pulled me aside during the convention and said, "Hey, I'm a part of the Commission for Professional Preparation, which at that time was Commission 12, for those of us who remember when it was numbered." And she said, "Here, I'm chair of the director. I'm chair of this commission, and I really believe that if we're about professional preparation, we should probably have some graduate students on this commission, not just faculty." And so she said, "Why don't you come to a meeting?" Once again, that was a start. At that point, I became a member of the director, and then moved into then other entities, including at that time the Standing Committee for Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender Awareness. The T wasn't even there at the time. I was there during some crucial conversations around the CMA. So that involvement really and truly moved me in a great way. This really, for me, for a bit, and I want you to indulge me for a moment to just basically know that this is going to be about gratitude for a little bit, because I'm so grateful in so many ways. So I'm going to take you on Vernon's Student Affairs journey, which is really Vernon's gratitude journey. We'll start off, of course, with Indiana University. Well, first of all, NC State at my undergrad. Got to tell you a quick story. So I remember, what am I going to do? When I walked into the office of Francine Bruce, my hall director, because I was an RA, and I said, "Francine, I just took the LSATs, and you know what? I am not going to law school." And she said, "Well, that's a good thing for you to know right now." And I said, "Well, but I'm a junior, and I really and truly don't know what I want to do." And she said, "Well, what do you like doing now? What is your passion?" I said, "Well, I really like my involvement on campus. I really enjoy the things that I'm doing now." She said, "Well, you do know that there is a career in higher education and student affairs." And I said, "I'm sorry, what?" And she said, "Yeah, you do know I have a degree, right?" As a matter of fact, I have several degrees. And I said, "Oh, okay." And that began the journey again in terms of me looking into programs and then ending up at Indiana University, where I did my graduate work. I have UC Berkeley here because I think sometimes we don't recognize the fact that sometimes pivotal things happen in your lives that you really don't realize are probably the most monumental. I did an internship between my first and second year in my master's program at UC Berkeley. Harry LeGrand was my supervisor as director of residential life, and it was the first time I had an African-American man in my life as a supervisor. And I will tell you that that summer transformed me in so many ways. And it was because of the mentorship that I continue to have in friendship with Harry LeGrand, who was also then Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs at UC Berkeley. And we continue to have that relationship. I'll also say that being in San Francisco for a summer, as a little boy from North Carolina, first time on the West Coast, my very first gay pride parade was San Francisco. Bam. Talk about baptism by fire. I was like, wow. I can't say anything else than that. UNC Charlotte, UNC Chapel Hill, in-house residential life with some amazing folks there that I know and love. And then I have to take a moment to talk about my 10 years at the University of Georgia, which I will always say was when I became a professional. That is when I truly became a professional. Folks like Jim Day, Dr. Brenda Richardson, Dan Hallenbeck, great folks who were my supervisors who truly grounded me and really, said, this is the way, this is what you need to be doing. I was able to go on semester at sea right after that. And for those of you who had that experience, it's an amazing experience. People who see me speak know that I always talk about semester at sea at least once because of that wonderful experience. I love my time in Iowa. Daniel was the only person who came to visit me, so the rest of you, okay. Wonderful time as assistant dean of students at Iowa State University. I always tell people, I don't want anybody to talk bad about Iowa unless you're either from Iowa or you live there. Because you don't know Iowa until you go there. There's something about the community there that is tremendous. And I loved it. It was a wonderful experience. I will say that, little tidbit for you, a lot of people don't know this, but SJTI would not have happened if it wasn't for ACPA. Jamie Watson and I put together a program that we were going to do as a pre-con. And all of a sudden we got this call from the program chair, and this is something I've always despised. It's when they call and say, hey, we see you've got a topic. We got 2 other people over here that have the same topic. Why don't y'all talk to each other and put together a fun program? Because, we like the topic, but we don't want there to be 2 GLPT programs, because Lord knows that's too many. We didn't want 2 pre-con, so we just want y'all to talk. And of course, I'm the one that went to Jamie. I was like, I don't know these people. And they happen to be Kathy O'Hare and Mark Cullen. And so we got together and chatted for the first time about this pre-convention workshop, which propelled us to this lifelong friendship, which then ended up with us having a conversation in 1998 to pull together a social justice training institute to really and truly have people engage in dialogues around inclusion, not on the surface, but get to a level where we can really do some great work. And it is because of ACPA that we have the Social Justice Training Institute. I will say my 5 years at ACPA in the international office, I know will assist me in my work as ACPA president because I've been able to see the insides, and I have tremendous respect for my international office staff members because I know what it is. I know what it is. I'm definitely doing some consulting now, I think many of you know, and then I'll end with my wonderful family of leadership where I am now, which continues to, I just wish for you that you could work for a group of people and for an entity where you smile when you're on a conference call, where you smile when you get an email from your colleagues, when you smile when you have some tough things to talk about, that you really and truly have to be in community with each other. I wish that for you. I wish that for you. I hope that you know that I'm just tremendously grateful for everybody and the things that we continue to do in our firm. So I'm just going to take just a little bit of time, not long, and share with you, first of all, this headline. From the Chronicle of Our Education, and the headline at the top reads, pretty much, war, political frustration, race, student unrest. The Chronicle of Our Education, that date, September 2nd, 1968. September 2nd, 1968. War, political frustration, race, student unrest. I share this with you because this ain't new, folks. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a campus and I've had a well-meaning white professional come to me and say, "Isn't it the worst it's ever been, Vernon, for for people from historically marginalized groups. Isn't it horrific? Isn't it the worst? And my response, no, it's not. It's just being filmed. Students from historically marginalized groups have told us for decades that our campus is chilly, hostile, they are fearful for their lives. And we've ignored them. We've not believed them. That we as the collective higher education league. My mother helped me put it in perspective. I was home recently and she said, I was kind of talking about some of the work I was doing and how, I got to be careful as I navigate communities and what does it mean, and, I don't know how people are going to receive me. And she said, Vernon, so what you're telling me is that it's worse now than when I was a freedom rider in North Carolina, getting on buses, going around to communities to talk and engage around inclusion, fearing for my life, and then coming back and trying to graduate in 4 years. You're saying it's worse now? You need to take several seats for a minute. Right now. And of course my response was, yes ma'am. That does not in any way say that currently there's a context. And there is hurt, fear, anger, frustration, and pain. I'm not taking away from that. I'm just saying, please know that it is not new. And we need to continue through this cycle to the next round and making sure that we are being supportive of our students. We have been bold. ACPA has been very bold, and I want to share a few things. It's important for you to know that we have a bold history. And maybe you know this, but I just want to ground us in this. ACPA was founded by a group of women professionals who were not allowed to be in other associations. And they wanted to gather and say, we need a place, we need a community right here. We need to recognize that that's where we began. We began with women who were not allowed in other associations. We were the very first association to find a space in terms of affinity groups around professionals of color, LGBTQ+. We also were part of that. We were really centered to that movement around moving from student services to student development and then from student development to student learning. We were centered in that. We work with NASA to develop professional competencies. And we truly, engaged conversations around what does it mean in terms of that. We've got a bold mission statement that Craig really and truly worked with our governing board to move forward in terms of making sure that we boldly transform higher education. ACPA transform higher education by creating and sharing influential scholarship, shaping critical reflective practice, and advocating for equitable and inclusive learning environments. So that's who we are. We're being bold. Our strategic imperative for racial justice and decolonization continues to be in the center of all that we do. Huge shout out to Stephen John Way and all of the folks who worked on this document. I gotta take a moment because I really believe that I know that people see the document and they go, what does this mean? And I've told this before, this whole concept around we are a part of this document. And the way I frame it, this is just my bullet points that keep me grounded. It's about building self-awareness, number one. Secondly, it's about embracing the possibility framework. What's next? What's important for us? It's about unpacking dominant narratives that may be a part of who we are. Dominant narratives that could be unintentionally marginalizing us. And it's about attending to history, reconciling the past, and the key here is love as the foundation. That's it. And so when people are really spinning around this document, I just say, this is what it is. And so for me, the last one, love is the foundation, the way I frame this is, the cancel culture is in no way embedded in this document. There's no way we can be about the strategic imperative and be about the cancel culture. You can't be. Because it's about relationship. When you see that word love, it means relationship also. We need to be in relationship with each other. That doesn't mean we can't hold each other accountable, but it's also about we need to know that the person in front of us is on the journey with us. And what does that look like? So here are a few things I'm just going to highlight that I just want to let you know that I'm going to be focused on this year. So the first one is around, we're going to continue to provide tools for you around racial justice and decolonization. We know that the initial document was around the framework and the theoretical framework that's really important for us to really and truly move us forward in terms of research. And we're going to continue to roll out additional tools. Our entities are doing that already, doing some great work in terms of what does this mean for them, and we're going to assist them in that. Really going to talk about PD 365, our Director of Professional Development, in terms of making sure that we provide ongoing opportunities for all of us as we move forward. We're doing the countdown to the 100th anniversary, so really excited about 100 years of ACPA. I got to talk about this whole, it is not ACPA or NASPA, folks, it's ACPA and NASPA. We must realize the fact that we are partners in the higher education arena. We need them, they need us. And it's so important because around policy and around how we show up in the things that we do, specifically around higher education issues, we need to be in partnership. And I've actually had conversations with the national leadership about what are we going to do in terms of a common voice that we can really share to our members and their members about this tagline, which is important. Really want to make sure that we focus on student mental health. Most folks don't realize that when ACPA became an entity, we were actually a part of ACA. It's ACA now, American Counseling Association. We were sort of a subset of that group. So we were born with counselors. And then in the 80s, we disaffiliated and became our own association. So it's really important for us to go back to our roots in terms of being connected with our counselors on our college campuses. I was lucky to speak at the national conference for school counselors, and they were so excited. Many of them were ACPA members who were there. Some of them had left and wanted to come back, and I said, y'all come back because we're going to do some stuff this year around student mental health. We're going to continue to support our entities, which is extremely important. We're going to look at some specific things for our grad prep faculty. We're going to ask you the question, what's next? In terms of support for job search and career advancement. Past President Ken Porterfield is going to be leading an initiative where we really look at, and we have some focus groups here, where we really try to talk about what does it mean in the next round when we come to job search and career advancement. We know that our current models are not working, and this is no spoiler alert, TPE at NASPA is not yielding the results that NASPA really and truly want. Think of that. And so we need to be in conversation with what we need to be. And then really want to focus on preparing. Some of you have seen the focus groups that we're having. We saw the email around certification and what that is and what it looks like. We're joining NASPA to have that conversation and engage. Some of you may remember this program, but in 2002 we were in Long Beach, California, where I had the pleasure of serving as your convention chair. It's so eerie and it's like serendipity. What was that word? Serendipity. Serendipity. Yeah, it sounds like an ice cream flavor. We're going back. so excited that Bernie agreed to be on this journey with me. Bernie and his team are so amazing. And there's going to be so much joy and excitement when we come to the West Coast. And I want you to join us. Only a few things that I just want to share with you around the convention that I'm going to be focused on. Couple of things. I really and truly believe that we have done some amazing work in engaging in conversations at the convention through caucusing. I just want to let you know that I'll be completely honest with you, caucusing is not the only way to have conversations around issues of inclusion, and I'm going to make sure that we continue Let me be clear, caucusing is not going anywhere. Okay? You can tweet that. Caucusing is not going anywhere. And there are other ways in which we can dialogue around issues of inclusion that include indigenous ways of knowing, include making sure that we talk about maybe liberation and hope, maybe emotional labor. There are so many ways in which I want to make sure that when you come to the convention and you want to engage in these conversations, you can pick something that would be connected to who you are as a person and where you are in terms of your level of acknowledgement and growth around these issues. That's the key for me. I'm going to have some presidential spotlight programs where we have some topics that are really focused on things that you want to see and hear. We have a rich history within the LGBT community here at ACPA, and I just want to make sure that we highlight that and talk about some of those historical pieces. I'm going to support higher education graduate programs in California. Many of you don't know that the majority of graduate students who graduates from higher ed programs in California stay in California. We need to honor that and be supportive of that, and what can we do in order to support that in different ways? Definitely want to outreach to community colleges, tribal colleges, and Hispanic serving institutions. There's a Black Male Network in California that we want to connect with, and really truly within colleges and universities. We are truly going to welcome California. Because those of you Californians that are here now, I know that it's tough. And we're excited that we're going to bring this to you, and I want you to bring all your friends, relatives, and children, and aunts and uncles and cousins to join us in California, because we're going to have a party for our California residents that they've never seen before. We got you. Asian American Student Support, I want to make sure that we do something very specifically around our Asian API students and what does that mean. And then I'm really keen on this access to our convention. What can we do in order to financially support people who may not be able to go, specifically folks who may be in job transitions and unemployed? And that's happening a lot in our education. And I want to make sure that I'm going to have some conversations with the foundation around how can we be supported with some of our corporate partners in that space. You heard about my mom and dad. Wardner and his team met when they were both high school teachers. My dad walked around the corner, bumped into my mom. She dropped her papers. He went down to grab me. They locked eyes. They rose, looked at each other, walked away. My mom thought, my dad thought, I'm going to marry that woman one day. My mom thought, that is the most arrogant man I've ever met in my life. Fast forward to the dance that was happening in the auditorium about a month or two later. Actually, it was a high school cafeterium. And my mom was on one end of the dance floor of the high school cafeterium. My dad was on the other end. And one student went to my mom, one student went to my dad, brought them to the center of the high school cafeterium, under the disco ball. I know what you're thinking. It's a Lifetime movie. It is. And they danced for the first time. And they kissed. And then bam, I was born. No, I didn't have People ask me sometimes, where did your passion for equity and inclusion come from? And I truly blame my parents for it. We call the day after, we call the December holidays D-Day in our house because from the 1st of December to the middle of January, we have to keep the house immaculate. And I remember growing up as a kid, we would get up every morning and we'd have to clean the house from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. So it would be ready at 8 a.m. every day. And my house had to be immaculate the entire month of December. And I think many of you know why. It's because my parents as teachers and former teachers would have former students come by. It was a revolving door the entire month. Students coming by with pictures of their family, talking about their successes, talking about some of their struggles, thanking my parents for being great mentors. I see that even to this day, former students come by my parents' house. And I do believe that seeing that visual of people from all walks of life, all gender identities, before I even knew what gender identity and sexual orientation was, all faiths, all colors, in my house, constantly in December, every year, since I can remember, truly informs the way I see the world, the way I see the world. So Ward and English team are in their 80s now, and my mother talked about coming up here to see me. And she said, so what are my choices? And I said, well, you can come here to Nashville and see me for my presidential address, or you can wait and come to Long Beach, because you went to Long Beach, when I was convention chair. And she sat there and she looked at me and she said, yeah, I want to go to Long Beach. I'm like, okay. I truly am blessed to have a wonderful family. It's just tremendous. And I wish for you, and I know we all have different family dynamics. And people who know me know that I always talk about my family because there's always a story about something that's going on. But I want to tell you that I believe the greatest philosopher that ever lived was Della Wall Ingram. She was my grandmother. And even though she's no longer physically with me right now, she used to always say this one simple thing. May the work I've done speak for me. May the work I've done speak for me. ACPA, we have work to do. Please join me on this journey.